Aloha Hawaii, this is Pokalainui. You are listening to Hawaiian Potpourri on radio station KWAI 1080 on your AM dial, broadcasting from the top of the Chinese Cultural Plaza here in Honolulu, Hawaii. You may also be watching this program played delayed at http at sites sites.google.com/site. This time it's just SITE, so it's singular. Slash and finally Pokalainui. That's POKALAENUI. It's treated as a single name, Pokalainui. And there you can see many of our programs. We normally produce 4 programs per, well, actually 8 programs per week, and that is 4 on Saturday, 4 on Sunday. And what I do is I cut up the programs into half-hour or approximately half-hour programs so that we can more easily load them on the internet. So if in case you have heard a program, you want to hear it again, you can go to the internet and you can pick up the program at that site that I had given you. Okay, this is the 14th day of July in the year 2012, and the time now is 10 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. It seems that the issue in the American national press revolves around the presidential election and what is seen to be as an issue on one side, and that's the Obama candidacy, and being denied as if it is an issue on the other side, and that of course is the Romney candidacy. Romney is saying it's not an issue. Why is a president stooping to such a low level of debate by talking about my actions with Bain Capital and the suggestion that I had control over its activities and had been outsourcing jobs to Asia. That is not what the topic is. The real topic is and should be focused on by the media is the economic situation here at home. And why is Barack Obama focusing in on the relationship between Mitt Romney and his business practices at Bain Capital? Well, an article that appeared on the 4th of July, before it seems much of this came to a head, it was written by Simon. Well, the name of the article is Simon Says by Roger Simon. And this appeared in a midweek magazine, and I thought it was very relevant to this discussion as an introduction to the whole issue of Mitt Romney and his presidential possibilities due to his business experience, which he himself began to raise. Anyway, going directly to the article, it says the Romney campaign sends out an email titled, quote, "Not the week of headlines President Obama was looking for." Last week, the email contained 13 stories that included CNBC's job openings report shows market is really, really bad. Bloomberg News, American hold dimmest view on economic outlook in 5 months. The Washington Post, everybody's moving into their parents' basements. The Obama campaign similarly posts negative stories about Romney. The campaign liked to use the media's reporting under and possibly dubious theory that people trust the media more than they trust campaigns. If so, the last few days have been far rougher on Romney than on Obama. 3 major news organizations published major stories calling into question Romney's behavior while running Bain capital. Even though, as I pointed out recently, businessmen historically have made lousy presidents, Romney's main qualifications to be president rest largely on his performance at Bain, a private equity firm. It bought other companies that he co-founded and ran for nearly 15 years, making a fortune in the process. Romney also ran the 2002 Winter Olympics, which he often talks about, and served a single term as governor of Massachusetts. He rarely talks about the latter, largely because of the health care plan he instituted there, which became a model for Obama's health care plan and is today unpopular with Romney's Republican base. While Romney would like to make the election about Obama's performance as president, Romney must also make the case that he would do better. He tries to make that case by stressing his accomplishments at Bain and all the good he did there by creating jobs for Americans. The president's a nice guy, but he's never had a job in the private sector, Romney often says. He's never created a job. I think it helps to have had a job to create a job. But did he create jobs? And where did he create them? Here or in Asia? Last Thursday, so this would be in June, in the month of June, okay? Last Thursday, Tom Hamburger wrote a story in the Washington Post headlined, Romney's Bain Capital invested in companies that move jobs overseas. The story began, Mitt Romney's financial company, Bain Capital, invested in a series of firms that specialize in relocating jobs done by American workers to new facilities in low-wage countries like China and India. The next day, Michael Luo and Julie Creswell published a story in the New York Times. Under the headlines, companies' ills did not harm Romney's firm. The key paragraph in the story stated that of the 40 U.S. companies in which Bain held a majority stake during Romney's tenure, quote, at least 7 eventually filed for bankruptcy while Bain remained involved or shortly afterwards. In some instances, hundreds of employees lost their jobs. In most of those cases, however, records and interviews suggest that Bain and its executives still found a way to make money. 2 days after that, Michael Kranish and Beth Healy of the Boston Globe published a story headlined, The Story Behind Romney and the Junk Bond King. The Junk Bond King was the infamous Michael Milken, who headed Drexel Burnham Lambert Incorporated. Burnham Lambert Incorporated, and ended up being sentenced to 10 years in prison and ordered to pay $600 million in fines and restitution for securities fraud. At the time of Romney's financial dealings with Milken, the Globe reported it was widely known that Milken and his company were under federal investigation, yet Romney decided to go ahead with the deal, saying, quote, it was fun while it lasted. Romney used the money he got from Milken's company, quote, to turn a $10 million investment into a $175 million profit for himself, his partners, and his investors. The killer quotation in the story comes from Mark Walpole, a former Drexel employee who was involved in the deal and later was hired by Romney to work at Bain Capital. Mitt, I think, spent his life balanced between fear and greed, Walpole said. He knew that he had to make a lot of money to launch his political career. The Romney campaign has mounted defenses to these stories, but its greatest luck so far is that the public often does not focus on stories that are both lengthy and deal with complex financial matters. People often demand that the media dig out the, quote, truth, rather than just deal in he said, she said stories. But the public has to be willing to read, listen, and absorb the truth. You can lead the public to water, but you can't make it drink. Yet the Romney campaign has to be worried about how many more shoes are going to drop. After a while, the public develops an impression of the candidate, even if it doesn't follow the details behind that impression. Those people who think this election is going to be determined by the unemployment figure released on the Monday before Election Day are wrong. You can't beat an incumbent president with a statistic. You have to beat him with a better choice. And if that choice is between Obama and the guy who balanced his life between fear and greed, then Obama has a real chance. Okay, so that's the story between, well, it's not the whole story, but that's the summary of this Bain Capital issue. And so if Romney is saying, why is the president stooping so low as to find contradictions in my earlier statement, I think the response is broad. Are you the one who started making the representation that you were so good at business, and all they're doing is, in fact, finding that contradiction and giving it back to you? Fair politics? I think so. What do you think? Telephone number here is 524-1080 if you would like to share an opinion on these matters. Now, we have other issues or other stories about the same thing. Another article that appeared in yesterday's Star Advertiser, Jack Gillum and Julie Pace, writing for the Associated Press. Rival campaigns accuse Romney and Obama of lying about Bain. At issue is when Romney left Bain and whether he was at the helm when it sent jobs overseas. So I think it's quite well established that Bain Capital, in fact, had taken quite a bit of jobs overseas. So the idea of outsourcing is accurate. Was Romney himself at the head of Bain when it was doing this? The document filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission placed Romney in charge of Bain from 1999 to 2001, a period in which the company outsourced jobs and ran companies that fell into bankruptcy. Romney has tried to distance himself from the period in Bain's history, reporting on financial disclosure forms. He had no active role in Bain as of February 1999. Obama has labeled Romney a job killer in hopes of undercutting the Republicans' claim that his private business experience gives him the ability to turn the economy around. But at least 3 times since then, Bain listed Romney as the company's, quote, controlling person, as well as its sole shareholder, sole director, chief executive officer, and president. And a document as late as February 2001 lists Romney's principal occupation, quote, as Bain's managing director. The Obama campaign called the SEC documents detailing Romney's role post-1999 a big Bain lie. After weeks of Bain attacks by Obama, Romney rolled out his new ad that sought to establish dishonesty as a pattern for Obama and uses his 2008 Democratic primary rival, Hillary Rodham Clinton, to do it. It included a clip of Clinton, now serving Obama as Secretary of State, saying, "Shame on you, Barack Obama," and calling on her then challenger to stop running dishonest ads. But even as it sought the upper hand with the ad, Romney's campaign found itself scrambling to explain the apparent discrepancies between the former Massachusetts governor's past statement about his Bain tenure and the SEC documents. Campaign spokeswoman Andrea Saul insisted Romney left Bain in February 1999 and, quote, had no input on the investments or management of companies after that point. The campaign also issued a statement from Bain saying that, quote, due to the sudden nature of Mr. Romney's departure, he remained the sole stockholder for a time while formal ownership was being documented and transferred to the group of partners who took over management of the firm in 1999. Accordingly, Mr. Romney was reported in various capacities on SEC filings during this period. It's kind of a weak statement to disclaim any responsibility or management control, especially if you have reports being filed with the SEC that he's the president, he's a CEO, he's a sole stockholder. It suggests that there is some control there, Mr. Romney. So let's see if you have any ideas about these arguments. Give me a call. Telephone number here is 524-1080. Of course, many people are saying, okay, that's quite a bit of talk, but let's not just overstate the case as if that's the only thing happening in the presidential election or in the campaigns going on there. And that's true. There are many other very interesting stuff going on as well. Another one is the Health Care Act, the ACA, or the Affordable Care Act. And is it really affordable? Well, it depends on what side you're looking at it from. The Republicans are essentially saying, no, it's not affordable. What we'll do is we'll repeal it as quickly as Romney gets into office. Romney had said that the first act as president he will do is repeal the act. And of course, we all know that it's an overstatement of the presidential powers of the United States or in the United States for a president to repeal legislation. He can begin working on it. But many people are asking, as you repeal the Affordable Care Act, how do you meet the insurance or the health needs of the people that the act will cover? How else are you going to meet the parity requirements that the act calls for in terms of those suffering from mental illness and drug and alcohol abuse being treated similarly as primary health care? How do you meet the needs of so many uninsured folks? And the emergency rooms continue and are required to provide medical services in emergencies for these folks. And who's going to pay if not spreading the cost to a greater number of people? Why don't you follow perhaps a Republican plan of meeting those needs? What is the Republican plan? Well, depending on how far back in history you want to take a look at to determine what the Republican plan is. And what the Democrats are saying is you don't need to look very far back in history, because if you look at this place called Massachusetts, during the period that the candidate, Mr. Romney, had been governor of Massachusetts, it's the same plan that we have invoked in what they now call Obamacare, somehow ceding to Barack Obama credit for having developed this plan, or trying to castigate ill thoughts against the president for adopting Mitt Romney's plan that was adopted in Massachusetts. It may be good for the people of Massachusetts, but not good for the rest of the people, let's say in Texas or in other places. The Republicans had also proposed this very plan, or this way of dispersing responsibility for payment of health care before the Affordable Care Act was passed. This originated as a Republican proposal and finally adopted. The Democrats picked it up, and as the Democrats picked it up, the Republicans began to step back and disassociate themselves with this plan. And so you may ask, as you step back, what plan are you proposing to meet the health needs of the people? And essentially, it seems that because they have no plan, but they're against this plan, what they're essentially saying is government should not have to meet the needs of the people, should not be the provider of health care for the people. And I guess you can say that it's a legitimate philosophical or political approach, as well as saying that, well, then governments need not meet the food needs of the people, and governments need not meet the job needs, the financial needs, or perhaps even the education needs of the people, or the environmental needs of the people. In fact, government need not meet any of the needs of the people, except perhaps the, quote, national interest of the government or of the people. And what is a national interest? Well, the way they've been building it up, it's only business. The national interest of the U.S. government is the business of oil. The national interest of the U.S. government is the business of creating empire, to be able to take out bases, to spread its military arm further out. But if that is merely a means for something more, what is that something more? Oh, that's to protect our business interests as far out as we can reach, including Coca-Cola, including McDonald's, including businesses. So from the Republican point of view, what is the purpose of government? To protect American interests as far as you can spread it abroad. But when it comes to protecting jobs within the American territory, no, that's not what the interest is. The interest is to maintain the support for corporations, multinational corporations. They need not carry even an American identity. Because they're multinational, that's okay. Because you got some Americans who are involved in the investment of multinational corporations, and it's government's responsibility to protect that interest. Is that what it comes down to? Is that what the Republicans are essentially saying? How do they, in essence, identify the role or the purpose of government itself? Okay. We'll leave that question with you as we go to some music. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back with further program. And this is Po Ka Lai Nui, and the time now is 4:31 on Saturday afternoon on the 14th of July in the year 2012.
Nanapua o Hawaii Tupa ama hope o ka aina Iki mai ka elele o ka loko ino Pala pala anunu me ka paka Mane mai Hawaii moku o ke ave Koku ana honoa o Pilani Ka ko o mai kaua I o mano Paapu me ke one o ka kuhi hewa ka pono sivila a o ke kanā